Now that we know how to identify the slope and the intercept from the slope-intercept formula, let's use that idea to graph, which is the beauty of this. We can identify this equation as y equals 2x plus 2, where the coefficient 2 in front of x is the slope, and this positive 2 is the y-intercept. So if my slope is 2, I can also think of that as 2 over 1. My y-intercept occurs at positive 2, which is at the point 0, 2. Now I'm going to use that information to plot my points, or to, draw a line. One thing, very, very important, this here at the y-intercept is where we start. Start here. Always begin at the y-intercept. So let's come over to our graph, and we're going to start at 0, 2. So I'm going to go over 0, up 2. My slope says I'm going to rise, remember rise, over, run. So I'm going to rise 2, 1, 2, run 1. Okay? Now what if I had gone, let's draw this first a second. We're going to rise 2, and we're going to run 1. Now, what if I had gone down 2 and to the left 1? It appears that this is all going to be on the same line, doesn't it? Well, that's because that's correct. I went back to my starting point, and I went down 2 and to the left 1. And the reason that that works is because that's a negative 2 down and a negative 1 to the left. Well, a negative divided by a negative is positive. That's why this still falls on the same line. So sometimes if I want to get a really straight line, I'll draw more than just 2 points. You only have to draw 2 though. Alright, that's what that looks like. Let's try this one. We're going to graph this equation using the slope-intercept formula. Let's identify the slope again. Remember that my slope is negative 2/3, because that's this number, that's the coefficient in front of x. And my y-intercept is occurring at the point 0, 1. Now, 2 things I want to highlight for you. Notice this negative sign, okay? The negative sign that was on my slope. What do I know about the slope of a negative line? This line would be going decreasing from the left to the right. So I know right away that my line is going to start up at the top here and move down to the right. And that's important for when we're plotting our points. That way we know whether we're doing this right, whether we're counting right. Remember also that I'm going to start at the intercept. Start here. So if I go over 0, up 1, this is the point I'm starting with. I'm going to count rise 2 and run 1. Not 1. Rise 2, run 3. Remember that this could be negative 2 over 3 or 2 over negative 3. So let's just do it. Let's go 1, 2 in the positive, 1, 2, 3 in the negative. Okay? I could go down 2 in the negative, 1, 2, 3 in the positive, and you can see that once again that is a straight line. Those will all lie on the same line. Now let me point that out for you just a little clearer. I'm going to rise 2 and I'm going to run negative 3. I'm going to rise negative 2, run positive 3. One way or the other, I have to have one negative sign in this, because a positive divided by a negative is a negative. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. So either way works, and you can see that they fall on the same line. It is a negative slope, as opposed to this one, which my slope was positive, so my line was positive, right? My line is increasing. Okay, now let's look at this equation. This equation isn't already written in the slope-intercept formula, so we need to change it so that it is written in the slope-intercept formula. The first thing I need to do is isolate the negative 3y, or the y. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And I get negative 3y is equal to, remember, take that negative 2x and shove it right in next to that equal sign, minus 6. I didn't really point this out before, but I'm just going to take a second and talk about it. This negative 6 and that negative 2x are not like terms, so I cannot combine them. That's why it ends up being negative 2x minus 6. Okay, now y is still not by itself. I need to divide all three terms by a negative 3. And I end up with y is equal to a negative divided by a negative is positive, so I get a positive 2/3 x. Oh, there we go, negative 3. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is a positive 2. So I took this standard equation right here, and I changed it to be the slope-intercept form right here. And now I can say that 2/3 is my slope, and the intercept occurs at 2, right? Okay, so let's graph that. So I'm going to start at the point, so I'm starting here, which happens to be 0, 2. So I go over 0, up 2. Now I'm going to count up to positive 2, run 3. So I go positive 2, run 1, 2, 3. Okay, I could go negative 2, negative 3, because a negative and a negative make a positive. And notice they're on the same line. Okay, so what did I do? Once again, I went positive 2, positive 3, or negative 2, negative 3, and I still get a positive slope. Okay, other thing I want to point out here, this 2, this coefficient of 2 next to the x is not the slope. My equation has to be in the slope-intercept formula for me to look at the coefficient of x. Okay, so I can only find, I'm going to write that over here. I can only find slope when my equation is in the slope-intercept formula. Okay, so I can't just look at this equation up here and think, oh, okay, well the slope has to be 2, because that's not right. My slope is actually 2/3.